All right, we are back. This is Pam with Perfectly Holistic, and I am so excited to have DQ here today, live from San Francisco, California. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm gonna just give our viewers a quick little tidbit. I was scrolling. I know we're friends on Facebook, and I was scrolling, and I saw your post about congratulations to me. I've been doing this job now for 10 years as a cat behaviorist. And I saw your eyes and I thought, man, he's an old soul. He's got wisdom. He's an entrepreneur and he's made it 10 years and successful. I want to hear his story. And so you guys are going to be so um, you're in for a treat today because there's a lot to DQ that I didn't even know about till just 5 minutes ago that I'm super excited about. So thank you for coming and
Oh,
hanging out with us for a little bit. I'm so excited.
absolutely. I'm happy to be here, and I always like to share the journey because, like, why
Yeah,
else do it if you can't share the pathway to where you are
exactly.
now?
I think the journey is so interesting. It you
Yeah.
know that's how we develop who we are as soul beings and all of that. It's all about the journey. So tell people, how did you get into doing what you do? Let's go back, a long time ago.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go back 25 years.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
um actually 20. Let's go back 20. Um,
Mhm.
I I moved to San Francisco in my mid 20s, and I had no direction. Didn't need any direction. I just wanted to come to California from New Jersey, and
Mhm.
that's all I had in mind. I at some point I went through a lot of temporary jobs, and we had a big .com explosion here in San Francisco in the year
I remember
2000. So I worked within that, thought that was where I was going, and it ended very quickly because it was
that.
just a pipe dream. So in 2001, I started a volunteer job. I call it a job because I was laid off, and I stayed as a volunteer 8 hours a day, like every day. I was like,
Oh
I'll just go
wow.
there. I'll go to the
Yeah.
SPCA in San Francisco and I'll sit with cats. And I think and the only reason I did that was because I had friends who had cats. I had a cat that I acquired here when I moved here. I didn't have
Mhm.
them in New Jersey. It really wasn't part of our family upbringing to have cats. We had a dog,
Yeah.
so wasn't a born cat guy.
Mhm.
Uh, but I learned that there was something I really appreciated about cats, and that they were puzzling. That they were puzzling in the way that, like, the puzzle is trust. How do I solve?
Yeah.
Uh, how to get this cat to trust me, and how do I get back what I'm giving, and that kind of thing. So when I started to volunteer at SPCA, not only was I having a great time sitting with cats, matchmaking people with cats, but it was the
Mhm.
people too that I realized was part of my skill set. It was that I could actually communicate their needs to the people, match make with the people. I enjoyed
Mm.
working with the humans, and I basically took a position at, like, the information desk. When you first walked in,
Yep.
a job eventually opened up at the adoption desk. I took that job at, like, minimum wage and part time, and basically that started in 2002. Fast forward to 2013.
Mhm.
That's a decade of adoption work, matchmaking work, intake, cat behavior,
Yeah.
volunteer teaching. I did it all. I was basically running the cat behavior department, and trying to create an army of these volunteers to avoid cats from biting and breaking skin and being held back, and all of that. We were starting to see things that held cats back in the system. So to
Yeah.
remedy that, I started to work with the volunteers. I would have worked with the volunteers every day, all day if I could, but the shelter really wanted me to concentrate on intake. Intake was exhausting me because that's the other side of the warm and happy adoption, is
Yes.
the rendering of a cat, and that
Yes.
is not always fun, and that is
Yes.
always sad.
You
So,
probably had your permanent supply of tissues, right?
oh yeah, we had, of course, right. You show up with your questionnaire and your tissue box, like, here, let's have a talk. Um, so I burned out. I got to the point where I wasn't seeing answers. I was like, why isn't there someone out there who's like talking people off the ledge? Why isn't there someone who can actually embed themselves in the environment with a person and a cat and find out what the problem truly is? Because
Mhm.
taking their word for it, this cat has a peeing issue, a vocal issue, a biting issue, whatever these things are. And we're just like,
Yeah.
okay, we have this data. Now let's find another path. So I enjoyed being the gatekeeper and the
Mhm.
pathway maker, but some of the issues maybe they weren't as bad, or they weren't condemning, and
Right.
a lot of them
Right.
were just understanding. So I started my business a year before I left the SPCA. I was actually working full time, and then I would leave at 5 p.m. and then go do home visits from
Mhm.
6 till 9 at night. So um, that it was like kind of moonlighting doing that.
Yeah.
So I got to the end and I left, and I left a full time job with benefits and a 401k and all that stuff to jump
Mhm.
out of 20-story window with no ground, right? Like where so
Yeah.
uh,
Leap of faith.
that yeah, leap of faith. So I would say to anyone listening and watching that yes, I've been in business 10 years and I've been working with cats for 20. But the last 10 has been by the seat of my pants because it's freelance work. It is not a job that
Mhm.
not everyone needs a cat consultant, and even some people who have cats don't think they need one. So, so I've been forging and creating a brand, which is essentially me.
Mhm.
You're paying for me to talk to me. So I am a product of living in San Francisco for 25 years, and
Mhm.
I've created a brand and a way of teaching about cats that matches my personal spiritual journey, my own philosophies, and what I've learned about cats along the way, and what I have found helps us be better humans. To what we can see, how cats live their lives, and that symbiotic relationship is basically what I work um, to change the mind of a human into figuring out, like, some of these things aren't actually problems. They're just behavior. They're not bad behavior. They're just behavior. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you
so
find
that's
along the way that you have to fix more humans than cats, right?
it's all human stuff. Honestly, I mean, like, not to say the cats aren't really the problem, but
Right.
for sure,
They
it's,
reflect the behavior, the owner sometimes, or the stress, or things like that. So yeah, I get
yeah.
it.
I think, excuse me, got something in my throat. Um, I think when you have an animal who's living in a captive environment,
Mhm.
and the human is who's setting the parameters for that cat to enjoy that environment or to exploit that environment. So when they often exploit the environment, we then start to manage them,
Mm.
right? Or draw hard lines about, no, you can't go here.
Align.
You're
Right.
allowed to go here, but not here, right? Like as
Yeah.
if they would understand
Right.
that thing in the house is not theirs, So what I try to do is like get a person in the frame of mind of like, look, you invited an animal into your home who actually doesn't really respond to your management so well. Like it's not the dog relationship a lot of people want. The
Yes.
commands and the obedience is something you have to work for.
Mhm.
But some of these behaviors that pop up, like being vocal or destructive or uh, counter surfing, scratching, fighting with
Mhm.
other animals, uh,
Mhm.
inappropriate elimination. All of these things are sometimes products of environments that don't suit the needs of one or many individual personalities.
Yes.
That's what I'm like trying to get people to take a little bit of time and just kind of like understand who this individual cat is
Mm-hmm.
and what they actually do need, um, especially with things like cats dynamics, or cats are fighting, or litter box issues. Like those are sometimes a matter of how you lay out an environment, or um, the consumer choices we have made for our cats are a lot of times not suitable. So
Absolutely.
when people ask me what I do for a living, I don't often say I'm a cat consultant. I say I change minds. I'm a mind changer. Because it's you know, when you say if it's more of a human issue, it's just more about changing the way a person thinks about the issue in some cases.
Yeah,
Um,
the
so
perspective.
yeah, so teaching acceptance, compromise, and
Mhm.
surrender, and that's been my tagline from day one: is surrender yourself, not your cat. Give
I
in,
love that. I
let
love
go,
that.
let
Mhm,
go a little bit, because
mhm,
these are not your little charges. You can't make them do anything. They do what
right.
they want. they they
Mhm,
they are just free will based creatures, and I think that's the puzzling part of them is that they live by that kind of own their own way, and I think
mhm,
that's what I respect most, because like that's how I live.
mhm.
A bit punk rock. It's a punk rock life. Cats are all punk rock.
There are definitely individuals and free spirits, that's for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
someone we respect who they are as individuals because they're all different,
yeah.
then we can have a better relationship with them
A
and
big
coexist
honestly,
uh, coexist a little better.
yeah, a big piece of, I think, what helps people understand how to live with a cat is just to understand consent. And
Mhm.
I just minutes before I got online with you, I was duking it out on Instagram with somebody, comments.
Yeah.
Because what I do when I'm online is I watch cat, I guess, for um, Instagram posts that are violating cat consent. And what I
Mhm.
found was someone posting a video where they're talking about how cats need consent and how different they are than dogs. But they were holding a cat against their will during the whole video. This cat is frozen in this cat person's arms, just dealing with it while they animate and talk.
Right, right,
And I
right.
thought, like, like a lot of folks online are using cats as props,
Yep.
uh, because they will react. They're known to react with swatting or biting or howling, or and they use that as comedy, or they use that as a way to talk about consent, but they're still actually violating the cat's consent, just
Mhm.
using them for the video, right? So when I talk about that with my clients, I use it in the context of handling. Some
Mhm.
have cats that they wish accepted more handling, or they wish they could pick up, or they
Yeah.
um, want to, so I say, like, we don't have to take as many liberties as we do. The physical liberties that we take, just when you're about to do it, think to yourself, one, is it necessary? Two, is it something I want or that they
Mhm.
want? Do they ask for it at all?
Mhm.
Because solicitation, the way cats do it, is confusing and conflicted. It's
Mhm.
a lot of times the cat just wants to own a moment, you know they want to live in the meow. They want to rub on you, own you
Yep.
for the moment, get that scent on you, and then the liberty happens when we reach down to pet them while they're doing that, and then they refuse us, reject us, swat us, get angry about it, right? So, like just yesterday, a lady was telling me, like, she sits in my lap and then she bites me, and I was like, well, it doesn't just sit in your lap and bite you, though, right? I was like, you're doing something. She said, oh, no, no, I'd go to pet her. I was like, okay, well, that's probably not what she wants. She probably just wants your warmth, presence.
Mhm.
She does
Mhm.
not want the complications of your touch. So maybe for 7 days, try not doing anything. Try not touching her at all and see. Because a lot of times you will see that their response to not being imposed upon is to
Mhm.
then, you
Then
know,
they
present
then they
themselves a little.
yeah, interesting.
Less is more.
It's
So,
true.
the
They
consent
have
piece is important.
yeah. I had a vet tell me years ago, it has to be the cat's idea. And
Yeah,
it's so true. It's so true. It has to be their idea, or at least make
true.
them think it's their idea.
This is your experiment right now. Any of you out there,
Yeah.
go to where nice, politely, go to where your cat is. If they're sitting somewhere, pick them up and put them somewhere else. Stay there.
They
They
won't
will
stay.
leave. So there are these circumstances that I run into with clients where cats are not getting along, or the new cat has arrived, and they're going to carry the cat into the room to introduce that cat to the other one, and wonder why it went bad, right? And I say, so one of these cats was brought into a situation, held, restrained, and then brought into a situation that was not their idea at all.
Mhm.
Of course, they would refuse and leave, right? So when cats are being introduced and cats in general are quarreling, the challenge is creating these experiences for them that are organic and free will based, right?
Mhm.
How do we make it feel like they had a choice either way, to be there or to leave, to
Right.
stay and endure? And a lot of times we use positive reinforcement, treats, things, distractions.
Mhm.
So it's about essentially killing time, trying to allow cats to be together for increased amount of times without incidents, because the incidents are what hardwire their opinions of each other. And then once you
Mm.
have a bad opinion, then you've got to go a couple steps back to then
Yeah.
move where you are, right?
Undo
So
stuff. The undoing is hard. You know?
yeah, exactly. And once it undoes, then our instincts are to separate, hard separate, close
Mm.
doors, cats in other rooms, other parts of the house. And then that
Mhm.
perpetuates this, I call, poorly formed intrigue. When they do see each other, it's going to go badly because one, if it's a young kitten, is going to be so excited. They blow it every
Yeah.
time. The kitten
Yeah. Yeah.
just naive, tunnel vision, run into
Yeah.
the fire.
And the
Um,
other one's
so,
like, "My space, my space."
yeah,
You're violating my space. Stay
I,
away.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think cat intros and just cat fights and stuff like that. For most, I'll just say, like, a lot of clients that I get have been dealing with it for a long, long time. So there may actually not be much you can do, right? So
Mhm.
if I've talked to somebody and I get to the point where I just instinctually and intuition know that there's nothing, like, there's no miracle here. It's a
Mhm.
management. Ooh, look at
Right.
that little thing. Oh,
This is Aylin.
oh my
Oh.
god, man, nice.
She comes in once held. I know.
Yeah, just moved her way right in there.
She did. She's like, "Oh, opportunity." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
She's my sweetie. So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
it just the point is that, like, with cat conflict, sometimes it's bad news that I'm giving, and the bad news is, like, where you're at is where you're at. Like,
Mhm.
you can manage this. This is a 15-year-old cat, and
Yeah.
this 3-month-old kitten is not really ever going to, like, convince this older cat that they're on the same page. There's going to be a rocky road of management in
Mhm,
some cases.
mhm.
So I don't find any problem telling people the truth. I'm not going to candy coat a situation. If you brought two cats home
Um,
to a cat home with two that were already there that don't like cats, like, you did this, right? So
right,
what's
right. No, it's true. It's true, and it's hard because as humans, we're used to being able to figure out, "Oh, well, we'll just get along because we get along with other people," and we just assume that, "Oh, our cats will get along," might take them a
yeah,
little bit, it doesn't happen in our time and space. We're just
right?
We don't really consider their feelings and,
right?
their environment
Our
and
expectations are often very unrealistic when it
yeah,
comes to predicting the amount of time it may take for things to go the way we want them
yeah,
to be. And
it
also,
can.
friendships are sometimes unrealistic too, you know? So
Mhm,
I
mhm.
always talk about like our goal is tolerance. That's what we want to go for, is that they can be in the same place at the same time without
Mhm.
incident.
Yes, and I think that's why if you have an older cat and you wanna get a kitten, get 2 kittens. So they'll leave the other cat alone and they'll play with
Yeah,
each other. It's
yeah,
so much better, and people miss the mark on that, they really do. Yeah.
yeah. I talked to someone yesterday who she was in Virginia. She has two cats that I worked with in 2016, trying to get them to be cool with each other. And she just brought in two 3-month-old kittens. Right. So now there's four, two boys, two kitten boys, two female adult cats in their teens. They want to like go outside and come in and not be bothered. And so it's about keeping the kittens occupied,
Occupied.
short introductions when they're exhausted and that kind of stuff. But for sure,
Mhm.
if they only adopted that one, it would be way worse because so many, especially during the quarantine the last 3 years, a lot of folks brought in kittens, singleton kittens that
Mhm.
time they hit 6 to 8 months are really physically active,
Yes.
uh, wrestling and ankle biting and ambushing. And what they really, really are seeking is a play partner the same size and of the same temperament. But
Yes.
oops, all I have is Noodles, and Noodles is 17, so it's you,
Yeah.
buddy. And
Not a match.
yeah,
It's not a match,
yeah,
for sure. Yeah. What's she
it's
doing?
the worst, most problematic time to bring a cat home is when they're in their teens, the juvenile stage. If they don't have another juvenile, it'll drive everyone, even the people, nuts.
Yeah, they really need friends. They really do. A playmate. I
Yeah.
really advocate for that. Um, so, what are share some of the stories that, like, some of the most challenging cases, clients that you've had to deal with, and what did you do? How did it work out?
Yeah, I think I'm thinking back to, because I've been doing Zoom for so long. I'm trying to think back to the some of the home visits I did that were really challenging. One comes up that I really worked hard on this one. This one took a while. Um, so here's the story: a woman falls in love in another country, and she decides to move her new husband to the States. It's from a South American country. I don't remember which one. He didn't speak any English. So when he showed up and opened his suitcase, her cat, who had never shown any signs of violence in the past, really viciously went after him, hackled
Oh,
up,
wow.
pile of erected hair, everything sticking up, dilated eyes, just
Yeah.
instantly reactive to my guess perception of an intruder in the house.
Mhm. Mhm.
Never had a live-in before, right? So it's a one-bedroom, smaller place. And here's the challenge. Okay, if this was a regular couple um, that lived together for a long, long time, and this was an aggression issue, we would work on impression
Mhm.
building of this cat and what are people good for, that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
My biggest challenge was this gentleman. Number one, didn't speak English, so I had to work through his partner interpreting to him. But also culturally, cats were not pets where he came from. So to
Mm,
try to get someone who's not culturally ready to accept the cat to then
mm,
work on a relationship when he just moved here, like he was like, "What are you crazy?"
right.
So we're talking about a cat who never let him like would pace, would
Oh,
stalk around, growl, like a really
mm,
reactive cat. His fear was warranted. It was a very um, I mean, we all know a cat who chooses not to run away is a very scary cat. One who comes forward and does not relent, right?
Yes, yes. Very
So
defensive. Mm-hmm.
afraid to sit down. He's afraid to sit in the living room. He's afraid to sit in the kitchen. He spends most of his waking hours standing up in the kitchen with a rolled up newspaper to protect himself. Yeah.
Oh
So
God.
I had to go over there. And I always try to show folks like I'm a stranger, right? So I might be even worse than the person who lives there showing up.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I'll do is like I'm not making eye contact with this cat. I'm
Yeah.
not engaging the cat at all when I walk in the door.
Yeah.
Uh, there's a certain confidence to my walk and presence that I
Mm-hmm.
am actually putting on to survive walking around this cat,
Right.
but also to show that like I'm not bending to your will. I'm not walking eggshells around you. They pick up on your body language and they know that you're
Absolutely. Absolutely.
adapting to them. It's working. They're banishing you. It's working, right? So, so I'm not tooting my own horn, but within half hour, I'm on the ground, laying on the ground, giving this cat treats.
Of course you are.
So, but that's because we spent some time. I sat and did nothing. I
Mhm.
tried to tell folks like really all you need to do is be present. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to reach, touch. Just be there, but also have some reason for this cat to approach you for another other objective than
Mhm.
to get you out of the way. Basically, we're trying to make an impression. We're bartering and negotiating, right?
Right.
So we found that treat that the cat can't live without, and I'm not walking anymore. I'm not a big, tall person or sitting on a couch that he wants me to, he's protective over. I'm laying on the ground and I'm just
Mhm.
like tossing treats, and he's like right by my face and he's walking around. But it's a different picture. It's a
Yeah.
different
You come
thing,
down to the level.
and it tempered his reactivity. Now I've got to
Mhm.
now I've got to kind of like somehow communicate that to this guy.
Is he
So
watching the whole time?
yeah, with reluctance from the
Yeah.
other room,
Yeah.
like
Like from around the door.
yeah, how's this happening? Um, so to shorten a very long story, we did 2 sessions in the house and a number of Skype sessions afterwards, just to
Mhm.
keep
Yeah.
because you have to repeat stuff. People won't remember what you say. You have to keep driving it home. They're cool now. This I had to have the guy feeding the cat every day,
Yeah.
bringing like presenting food,
Mhm.
not
It's my
you know
peace offering.
right or just part of a predictable ritual because
Mhm.
no cat wants like a day to roll out in an unpredictable way. They want to be able to set their watch to their benefit. How do I? When do the gains come out? When's the day bear fruit for me? Oh, it happens when he puts the food down for me, when he has a wand toy that he
Mhm.
plays with,
That you
all distanced stuff, big long, wand with a long cord. So
yeah.
that's slow baby stepping, rolling out a new impression.
Mhm.
I will say also that they did have to go to a veterinarian and get some meds
Oh,
because the
wow.
reactivity was very, very high. So
Yeah.
that cat might have been a Prozac cat too, which I'm not like, yay, let's go get Prozac. It's not the first thing I'd ever tell somebody to do, but if the reactivity is at a point where it just doesn't de-escalate ever, sometimes measures have to be taken.
Yeah. Sadly.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but we work a lot with the rapport, the environment. How do we make an environment that's conducive to this cat not bottlenecking, not constantly pushing themselves into places that are known to be triggers? And
Yeah.
that's a cat move is to, do something completely conflicted, right? I hate people, but I'm going to sit in the middle of the room and swat everyone that walks by because they do the power and the control is still part of their personality. So they put themselves in these positions where it erupts, and And
Mhm.
again, had another client, same thing, whenever we have guests over, the cat reacts this way, or whenever we have a plumber, right? So you can't have a plumber working with the cat, but you can have friends who are on the page with you, helping you.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like a treat before the doorbell rings. When the doorbell rings, you walk in. There's a treat bag outside the house that you walk in and you drop as you walk in. Like the cat has to set their clock to a different impression, and
Yeah. So it's a
that's a long,
positive reinforcement to
yeah,
something that could be a
yeah.
trigger. Mhm. Mhm. No, that makes a lot of sense. Whenever we would have workers come over to our house, our cats would end up walking around and just like sniffing all their stuff and like jumping up on the guy's back and like, what you doing? I, I'm sorry. She's very nosy, or he just wants to see what's going on. Some cats are totally the opposite and go run in the other room and go, tell me when he's gone. just you just never know. It's the
Yeah.
personalities.
Yep. It's
Mhm.
it's sometimes it's hard to predict to how they're going to react in a good or bad way. Some of them
Yeah.
are like, I would do the same thing. He would be in a toolbox. He'd be in the mix. You know.
Mhm. Right in the
Um,
mix.
yeah. It's
They're so funny. So, that's amazing. So did the guy come around and, like, decide that he liked the cat? He really tried? Or did
well,
they
my
did they develop their relationship in a way that,
yeah, they're still
you know
together. My whole point was, dude, you moved here from another country. You're living with this cat. There's no other way around this. Like, you've got to
Right.
figure a way out. You know.
Yeah.
Um, because that's a very, very common scenario of folks moving in together into an apartment with either cats that are there that don't like the new person, or cats that live there, now new cats coming in, two people joining together. And
Yeah.
um, I've got clients that, they're two sets of senior uh, girl cats, and they had to actually put a screen door in the middle of their house, because it's just in San Francisco we have what's called a railroad apartment. It's a I don't know why they call it that, but it's a long hallway with a
Okay.
room in the front, room in the back, long gauntlet, right? So those are
Okay.
for
Yes.
cats to navigate through there. So we've got like a makeshift screen door between there so that they can approach each other, and it
Mhm.
basically soften the barrier between them. So
Yes.
that's working little by little, but they're still cranky old lady cats that are
Yeah.
going to be cranky old lady cats. You can't
Yeah.
change everything. So
Exactly. I have a funny story because when my fiance at the time moved into the apartment we were living in, my I had 2 cats, and one cat was he's my boy, he's mama's boy. He would literally drag my ex-husband's socks into the litter box at night.
hard to not take that personally.
We just got a good laugh out of it. It's like, guess he's trying to send a message. He does not approve. You're taking my mama away. He just viewed it as you're taking something from me. So I'm going to take something of yours and show you what I think about it. It was hilarious. Um, but they eventually, got along fine. But it was just, I had never had such a in your face like, well,
Yeah,
let me show you.
either that, or he grabs the sock. Here's where my brain goes. He grabs the sock. So I try to think like, it's not like the spite part is where our brain goes. Like it's
Right.
making a statement. Or is he grabbing something that he finds to be intriguingly new in the house and dragging it to a place that's a resource or claimed? He has a flag planted right there.
That's
So
a good point. That
maybe
was a
he's
good
dragging
point.
resources to his, like, because
Yeah.
cat pee is a very that's just vexes
It
people. They're thinking. makes them very take things very personally because it often
Yeah.
happens in places that are property. Your bed at the side of the
Mhm.
bed, your pillow, your clothes, your only, your stuff, your clothes, your boyfriend's stuff, whatever. Um, what I find is
Mm.
that the choice to pee on a place that is property is often done because of the significance and value of that property.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
Or their connection, the scent or
Connection to
something.
the person. So
Mhm.
insecurity and also confidence play in. So if
Mhm.
a cat is insecure, yeah, they're probably going to pee on the guest bed when you have somebody come or pee in their luggage or something. Like they're
Yes.
smelling a completely new set of pheromones in the house. They're
Yeah.
a little disjointed and concerned about that. So they're eliminating in a place that now to them
Not
seems like
something.
they don't have representation, right?
Right,
So
right.
plant the flag.
I
Or
have now.
you
Yeah.
you leave for your vacation and you come back and you don't find accidents, but the second you return, your cat runs to your bed and pees on it, like in real time, looking
Mm.
at it. He's looking right at me when he does it, right?
Yeah.
And that sometimes is, I think, as what I call a tribute pee, celebratory
Um,
pee. You're back. Let's
oh,
go
yeah.
join. Let me pee in a place that I know your bed is stuffed with you. So
Yeah.
great, you're back. Yay, we're back together. So, that's a hard thing to
Well,
explain. It's complimentary.
no, it's yeah, even though we don't view it like that. Now, the
Yeah.
cat didn't like my ex. He didn't like
Oh,
him. He
okay.
didn't like him at all. He would and not he never really got, like, buddy with him. He was always like, "He took my mom away." It was
Uh,
very much he was very possessive of me, you know? They never had a they coexisted, but they didn't have, like, a loving, bonded relationship or anything, but that was it he didn't do it forever. It was just a few times, like, right in the very beginning, and then he chilled out. He's like, "I guess he's staying." Mm. Yeah. Okay, we'll just get along.
Socks smelled, and
No,
he thought they belonged in the box because they smelled
uh,
bad.
yeah, you never know.
Quality's up a layer.
Right, exactly. Woohoo, these need cleaned. But it was one of those things you just go, huh, well, that's a first. That was so funny. That was so funny. Um, so yeah, what other kind of tips do you have just in general for people? Like, what are the most common types of situations that you get calls about and have to remedy the most? And just any tips for viewers, just that they can kind of
Yeah.
explore?
The most common things I'm working with are, what we just talked about, like the inappropriate elimination, spraying
Yes.
and
Yeah.
marking, cat to cat problems or cat to dog problems, cat to people
Mhm.
problems. Anytime a cat is showing disdain for something,
Mhm.
and um, meowing, scratching, and destruction, those are pretty popular too. So the thing I think that people should really realize, and one of the things that I talk about virtually every time I try to solve a cat problem, is multiple choice. So we tend to want to create environments for our animals that with good intentions, but we don't
Mhm.
always think about choice. And I think
Right.
especially with multiple cats, if you're being stingy on litter boxes and you're expecting your cats to eat in the same place at the same time, or share a cat tree or share even your bed, right? uh,
Mhm.
you start to find that one of those cats might be better at either like bullying the other cat from it, eating faster than the other cat,
Mhm.
cleaning the litter box. So there's, there are pecking orders that form in multiple cat situations. I do feel
Mhm.
like they're very fluid in those pecking orders. They do change and they shift in time. But um, one, I think a thing that pops up all the time is just, you've got a litter box problem with your cats, but you've only got one box.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or you've got two, great, but it's still not enough. So I talk to people all the time about this. Like, I know your space is compromised, but your cat is telling you through their actions that they don't have
Mm-hmm.
representation in a room that they prefer to have it. So would
Yes.
you please, just as an experiment for a week, put out a third litter box and see what happens?
Yeah.
Um, because we don't want our cats competing. We
Right.
don't.
It's all
Um,
about resources for them.
so I say the word bottleneck a lot because they feel like it
Mhm.
explains the way cats sort of like get squeezed into situations that create tension between them. Um, there's a lot of info, and a lot of us are still practicing positive reinforcement when cats come
Mhm.
together. But sometimes bringing them together is not the right thing to do, especially close together. So some feeding stations may need to be split up or tripled. There may need to be multiple places, resources. You may need to start thinking up instead of ground level because
Yeah.
a lot of um, cat houses are they're just conforming to couches and waist
Mhm.
high furniture for human beings.
Mhm.
That's why they like countertops. That's why they're just exploiting their captivity. So when you can give them options that fan out their interests,
Mhm.
allow empowered cats to be empowered up top, not on the ground, not around the
Yeah.
corner, not in front of a litter
Mhm.
box. Uh,
Mhm.
and then our shy cats, giving them spaces and places that um, either don't have other cat traffic or just allowing them to have a navigation around an apartment or a house that doesn't uh, get affected by other cats navigating the same spaces too. So that's a
Yes.
big takeaway. Is like you've got to have choices, and if if you've got enough choices for your cats, then they adapt to those things. You build it, and they will come. Right.
Yes. Yes.
The other big piece is um, our acceptance and our compromise and things I said earlier. Just
Mhm.
when I do consultations with people, I do often try to celebrate their victories with them. Like they come to me with a problem, but then I will say to them like, I just want you to know, like your intuition is really good.
Mhm.
You because to solve a cat problem, the person has to solve it. So if their frame of mind is angry and resentful
Yeah.
and tarnished because a
Mhm.
cat is on their pillow, right? Like that stuff I have clients with PTSD, like legit PTSD. They're afraid of their cats because they've been
Yeah.
bitten
Yeah.
and they've been sent to the hospital
Mhm.
or sleeping
Mhm.
and cat jumped on their chest and was already aroused and then they got bitten or something, so these are real
Yeah.
things that
Mhm.
feel. And so I try to really talk to people about their feelings and to celebrate what they did right. And
Mhm.
especially with couples, oh my god, counseling couples is like couple therapy because
Marriage
they
counseling.
they they throw each other under the bus.
Mhm.
They try to bait me into conversations to prove that they were right about something. See, I
Mhm.
right.
I'm doing it right.
So,
You are doing
so
it wrong.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
often I'm saying to them like, no, I think like there are both valid statements here. I think we can work
Mhm.
together on, so when I have to get a person's um when I have to interface with somebody and get them to buy into a solution, I have to boost their confidence and I also have to give them hope
No.
because
Yeah. You're so right, and I think a lot of times it's easy to get sucked into the drama and not even realize, like you said, your intuition is right. You just don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
Maybe it's now I'm at a wall. Okay, well, I'm right, but what do I do about it? I think one of the biggest things people can do is probably just sit still and just watch and observe, not
Right.
judge, just watch how their interactions, where they go, who goes where, and just get on the floor and look at it from their point of view.
Right.
And you'd be amazed what you can just learn by sitting there for an hour and just watching interaction and just behaviors and the hierarchy would who does this when why where and it
Yeah.
just gives you a different perspective and appreciation.
I think a lot of people like to be taken off the hook for having to hyper manage an issue.
Hmm.
They're like, you don't have to react to what they're doing. It won't make it better. It hasn't made it
Right.
better. They're not
Hmm.
stopping what you're doing, but you're aggravating over and over
Hmm.
and over. So you bring an energy to your
Yeah.
relationship with this cat that is like kinky and wonky and weird, and
Hmm.
they react to that. So that
You.
symbiotic relationship that people have with their cats is something I'm always talking about. Like, how are you feeling? Because if you're stressed out and you're anxious, everyone is. I have housemates. When my housemates are, in the shit, I'm in the shit because we're in it together.
Energy.
So,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. So true. I'm so glad you brought that up because I talk to people all the time, you know, especially when I do evaluations and stuff, and I can pinpoint emotions that are coming up on the cat, and they're
yeah,
really reflecting the pet parent. I'm like, how are you feeling? Because I know how you're feeling because I
yeah,
can see it on paper. But how do you think you're feeling? And they see it and they look at it like, holy crap, I can't even believe you picked up on that.
yeah,
How do you know? Your cats know. They pick up on everything. It is energy. And
right.
I love the world of energy and the woo woo and all of that. I mean, you know all that too, and that's why it's so fascinating. But the intuitive side and the energy, looking overall at the energy, is so important. What kind of energy are we bringing into the home? You
Right.
know, because our cats will reflect that back to us if we can just stop and just observe and just not judge, but just look and just be.
I would say that's the one thing I'm missing most from home visits was that when I walk into a home, I can feel it all. Like,
Mhm.
I can see it, I can feel it, I can tell, like, just visually, I can walk in and know if you're like really working on this or you're not because there's no cat stuff. You know,
Right, right.
uh, you're living in a very conformed apartment. The aesthetics are very important to you and all those things. But I can tell, just by being with a person and their cats, what the overall energy, what needs to be fixed, what we need to
Mhm.
Zoom, I can still do it, but it's certainly being there in that
It's
environment is
different.
better. Yeah. Talked a
Absolutely.
little bit before we were alive, you and I were talking about tarot, and
Yes, let's talk about that. It's so fun.
so one of the things that I've integrated into right now, it's kind of casual. I'm not offering it as a real service. It will be
Mm,
one day soon, but when I
yes.
work with my clients, we often get to the point of the end of our consultation where we now have an action plan. We've addressed everything. We know the problem, and now it's like, okay, I will pull out my tarot deck and we'll just pull out one or three, depending, and see what it corresponds with. And cat issues, cat problems are human problems. They're the same problems, right? So
Mhm.
if we're working on a problem, the card will apply to the person who has to work on it, and also what the cat is feeling too. So
Mhm.
it's fun.
Mhm.
Not everyone is receptive, but I often I only pull a card for a person who I know is. So,
Right. No, absolutely. And it's so spot on. Give like some examples of what you um have pulled and just like their
like,
reaction, the
so we're
people.
pulling, like, let's say, the scariest card to see, but the best card to pull is the death card,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so if I'm working with somebody and we're working on a litter box issue or whatever it is, the death card comes up, and I'm like, well, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
we're gonna leave this shit behind.
Yeah.
And we're gonna start a whole new pathway
Yeah.
ahead. It's just telling us that this is over. And we're
Yeah.
gonna, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
if we're pulling cards that are like king of anything, or queen of wands or cups or anything, like those
Uh-huh.
are all really empowered cards, really like your like goal reaching cards, or if we're pulling major cards like the fool is really great. I like that one because it just, I don't know, it's a very hopeful card in
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
opinion. But
Mhm.
um so yeah, it all depends on what we're working on. But
Yeah.
that's the beauty of tarot. You can interpret it so many ways, and I mean there's certain conformed ways, but also uh,
Yeah.
apply,
Right.
you can apply it to so many things.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love how it all kind of ties into the whole spiritual side. And our cats, as we know, are very spiritual beings.
Yeah,
They're very spiritual creatures. They have so much wisdom and they have so much to teach us. I feel like they can be our biggest teachers. I've learned a lot from my own kitties over the years, and that's kind of put me on the path that I'm on now, thankfully. So, I think it's just a matter of being willing to learn the lessons and identify the lessons that we need to learn and what they're trying to teach us or show us, and then embrace that, and then, you know, go through the journey, because it is a journey, you know?
yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking, like I've got swimming through all my memories of different clients over the years, and there are so many because I mean I think
Yeah.
I did
Genuine.
350 last year alone just on Zoom. Like
Woo.
that's a lot.
That's a
Um, but in my starting to do home visits again. One of the one I just did a couple weeks ago was on a houseboat. So here in the Bay Area, there's a little town called Sausalito, just right
uh-huh.
over the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's famous for this little neighborhood of docks that have houseboats on. They're the coolest looking boats. They're just
Oh, cool.
really artistic and
Yeah.
quirky and fun. And there are cats that live on the docks that live in the boats. So when you're walking through, you do come across cats. But
Uh-huh.
the one we were working with was a cat with um, reactivity and swatting, growling, just really like edgy little Maine Coon. But it was
Oh,
in this Austin. We're in a boat, right? So it's
yeah.
all glass, open. There's water right outside, and some of the triggers for this cat were um, wildlife. So there's
Mhm.
raccoons that swim from the shore out to the docks, and then there are these big birds, water birds that
Oh,
live,
yeah.
rats and all kinds of stuff that come up on the docks. So the cat is kind of
Oh,
often triggered by that.
yeah.
Um, they've been having work done on the boat also. So these people have been coming and working on it. So cat, we're talking a house is not a big environment.
Right. No, no.
So working within the confines of that, and then trying our best to work on new routines. That's where we break out food puzzles and
Mhm.
enrichment that is just like happens in an environment. Hopefully, coincides during events that trigger the cat, things like that. Because you can't.
Yes.
There's nothing to embellish on in there. You can't put up shelves. There's like a small little,
Yeah.
you know. That
Yes.
was fun. That was I enjoyed that one, but that was you know, that I think that's what I love about the job, and what I've always loved about the home visits was like, what am I gonna see when that door opens? What is in there? Who
You
are
never know. You never know. Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun. Will you just tell people where they can find you if they want to do a consultation or learn more about you? Please share your website, and I will definitely put it in the
sure.
notes of the show too.
Yeah, I'm easy to find. So you can find me at gocatgosf.com. So SF like San Francisco. You can find me on every social media platform at gocatgosf. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of it.
Yes, and I just put that in the comments for people to see. Awesome. Well, any final thoughts or tips, or just anything else you want to share before we wrap up here? Just any
Final
final
tips
words?
are just, don't be lazy. Don't let days go by.
Mhm.
That has done nothing. If they're sleeping, eating, and doing nothing, that is not a life for a cat. You've got to step it up. You've got to play with them. You've got
Mhm.
to play realistically, right? Make
Mhm.
toys do realistic things. Give yourself the time. This is my advice to you: is cat play is 15 minutes of meditation that you could have to yourself and to your cat. You can be a bug for 15 minutes and just become a bird instead of you. The world is crazy right now, and the
Mhm.
burdens of our living and working are heavy. So if you can square away some time for yourself and your cat at the same time, it's a double bonus. And
Mhm.
that's living in the meow. It's just understanding that our cats live a certain way. They're very present. They
Mhm.
live in the moment. They make moment to moment decisions. And sometimes they're reactive, but mostly they're meditative. And I think we
True.
can learn a lot from their approach to life. All of our bullshit and all of our anxiety and all the things that day to day plague us. Um, we
Mhm.
can we can slow down our thinking and be more present, and our cats will appreciate it. And I think humanity as a whole would be better.
Well said. I agree. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. And thank you, DQ, for hanging out. This has been
Absolutely.
so much fun.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time and lots of love to you guys. And we'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.